Sure, I can write the top 10 news from around the world today. Here is a summary of the most important and interesting stories from different regions and sources. Africa. Bodies of 87 people found in Sudan mass grave, says UN 1. The alleged victims of Sudanese paramilitary and allied militia were found in a shallow grave in West Darfur. The UN has called for an investigation into the killings, which occurred during a violent crackdown on protesters in June 2091. America's Guatemala prosecutor suspends party of anti-corruption election candidate 2. The prosecutor suspended Movimiento Semilla, the party of Bernardo Arevalo, who unexpectedly reached the second round of the presidential election in June. The move was seen as an attempt to undermine Arevalo's campaign, which has vowed to fight corruption and impunity in the country too. Asia-Pacific Marshall Islands calls for U.S. to pay more compensation over nuclear tests 3. The Pacific nation, which was plagued by the environmental and health effects of 67 bomb tests between 1946 and 1958, has asked the U.S. to increase the payments it agreed to in 1986. The Marshall Islands says the U.S. has not fulfilled its obligations under the Compact of Free Association, which grants the U.S. military access to the islands 3. Australia, Queensland, LNP leader accused of bowing to party's far right in qualifying his support for treaty. The Liberal National Party's David Crisafulli has ruled out compensation, reparations, sovereignty, right of veto, described as key components of a treaty with Indigenous Australians. His stance has been criticized by Indigenous leaders and Labour politicians, who accuse him of pandering to the conservative wing of his party. Europe. Hungarian bookstore fined for selling LGBTQ+ novel in youth section. The bookstore was fined for selling Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, a graphic novel about two teenage boys falling in love, in the section for young people. The authorities said the book violated a controversial law that bans the promotion of homosexuality and gender change to minors. Middle East. Putin v. Prigozhin. Is Wagner too valuable to crush? A leaked audio recording suggests that Russian President Vladimir Putin offered to make Wagner, a private military company linked to businessman Yevgeny Prigozhin, a regular unit of the Russian army. However, Wagner's leader rejected the offer, saying he preferred to operate independently. Wagner has been accused of involvement in conflicts and human rights.